Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us today. According to my desktop, it is high noon, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Appreciate you spending part of your afternoon with us today and what may be part of your lunch. I think you'll find our presentation worthwhile. Today we'll be presenting on implementation of CCC MyPath. This is the September version of a monthly webinar series that will continue next month and beyond. I do want to point out briefly that this session is being live captioned, so the closed captioning is available to you. That ability to generate the closed captions should show up in your toolbar for Zoom. So if you need access to that, it is there. The other bit of housekeeping is we are recording this webinar. So if you know of colleagues that are unable to attend or others that you would like to share the recording with, we'll send out notice when the recording is available. So with that, I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to invite Mike Caruso.
Actually, I'm going to jump
Jennifer
in.
Coleman.
Thank you.
Jennifer, you were the second one I was going to invite, so there you go. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for attending today. We want to make sure that you have all the information you need to make a decision around adoption of MyPath for your college. And as such, we're going to present a few different items today that are different than some of the other webinars that we've been presenting over the last year or so. One of the things that we hear from colleges and that we've heard as a narrative out in the field has been around the loss of students between application and actual enrollment and attendance at a local college. And MyPath has been working for quite some time now to assist with identifying places that we can jump in to get students into the process of onboarding after CCC Apply. And what we have found is that we are making an impact. And so as you make decisions locally at your college as to whether or not to adopt MyPath, we want to make sure that you're aware of some of the numbers that we're seeing out in the field. So I'm going to share a slide that we've just come out with. You're the first group to see this outside of our tech center staff. It's a sneak peek into the impacts that MyPath has. And so what we're seeing is a way for colleges to engage with students that is customizable at the local level, that encourages students to connect with the tasks that get them into classes and on their path to success without having to interact with thousands of them directly, potentially, but in ways that feel personalized to the students. So first up, we were able to run some numbers on our spring data, and we have over 330,000 individual tasks that were completed by students between January 1st and June 30th of this year. And that's a pretty significant number given that we had a lot of colleges adopt MyPath in the spring, and so that's not necessarily indicative of our current numbers. We're looking to run this stat again for the first quarter of this new fiscal year, covering July, August, and September, when we saw many of our students engaging with our colleges that have MyPath, and we'll be working to share these kinds of statistics out to show impact of the use of MyPath. Additionally, specific to Golden West, upon completion of CCC Apply, 81% of students were drawn to MyPath for next steps. So in some cases, when a student completes their application, they get a message that says, "Good job, you completed your application, you'll get an email from your college." And they have to wait for that email in order to take their next steps. And what MyPath is doing is immediately drawing them into the next steps, because we know that they're ready for them at that point. They've decided this is what they want to do next, and we were able to capture 81% of them moving into MyPath and able to complete the next steps towards onboarding. Additionally, we have our reminder functionality within MyPath, and for the colleges who have adopted it, which is not all of them, we are seeing good levels of engagement there. It's automated reminders that are customizable by colleges. And for across all colleges that use the reminder functions, 22% of students receiving a nudge from MyPath not only re-engaged and returned to MyPath to click through to see what the reminder was about, but actually engaged with the next step, and we were able to track that. So in terms of some automated pieces that you can put into use immediately at your colleges to assist with student onboarding and getting those students on the path to success, we're seeing good results, and we're working to continue to provide this type of statistic out into the field and to make sure that people are aware of the impact that MyPath is having. So what we're going to do today is turn it over actually to one of our recent adoptees, or colleges who've implemented, and have them talk about their specific experience. What we want you to see is what it really looks like to implement, and we'll hear from our enabling services team about how they will assist with it. We do our best to make sure that we lay out all of the necessary steps and that we provide assistance in completing those steps that have to be completed locally. And so I'm going to go ahead and stop my share and see if there's anything that Mike Caruso, our product manager, wanted to add. Above all, I want to be clear that the Tech Center staff is here to assist with implementation of MyPath, and that we are seeing good results at our colleges who are utilizing it. And additionally, we are open to input from our user base. And so as we move through these processes with our now 43 colleges who've chosen to adopt MyPath, we are looking at ways to continue to improve not only the implementation process, but the way that MyPath is utilized and its functionality in support of students and our colleges directly. So Mike, do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, I was actually just going to stress that last point that you made, which is the sort of collaborative nature we've taken with the product development of MyPath. Jennifer just showed some pretty awesome statistics about the product with you guys. And we have a group that meets quarterly called the MyPath user group, where essentially all colleges that use MyPath are invited to come and give us feedback about it. And one of the most important functions of that group is that we sort of take a chance to look at the functionality we're offering, what the product can do, what the kinds of intelligence are that we can offer colleges about how students are using MyPath. And then we essentially open it up for folks to ask us or tell us, I would like to see MyPath, add X function. I would like to see the way it looks change in this specific way, and here's why. And I think if you would talk to the people who are in that user group, you would find that oftentimes we're able to pretty quickly translate these requirements into deliveries inside of the product. So that group is open to all of you to join us. As you adopt the product, please come help us continue to direct the development of MyPath so that we can make sure that we're being responsive to the needs of the field and providing the product that you guys want MyPath to be. So that's basically it. I don't want to get in the way of Melody's presentation anymore because I'm pretty excited for you guys to check it out. So with that being said, Sandoval, I think we can keep going.
That's great. Thank you. Melody, I'd like to invite you to go ahead and speak now. Thank you.
Okay, so everyone can hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Awesome, just wanted to get that out of the way. Okay, I am Melody Chronister. I am from Imperial Valley College. I am here on behalf of the Guided Pathways team. I do want to stress this was a team effort. They just tagged me as being it to share. Imperial Valley College, I don't have a slide, but for those not familiar, we are a single campus district. We're about 30 minutes north of the Mexican border. Closest community college is probably College of the Desert besides us. And we're about 8,000 FTES right now, and we've actually seen some growth this fall, which is pretty exciting. So for MyPath, why did we go with MyPath? Well, we had a conversation at the Guided Pathways Committee meetings, and we had decided that it best aligned with our Guided Pathways goals and was something that was going to be an early victory for us. Being in IT, we have a lot of implementations going on. All those banner schools, you know, Banner 9 was not an easy lift at all. And so we wanted something that we can accomplish quickly, but also would take little time on the IT side to support, and MyPath fit that bill. So we went forward with it. Now, as far as the team, we did have a number of people involved. I did put the asterisk next to the first few because those would be the core. These members were here at almost every meeting, and that was the VP of Instruction, who's also overseeing Guided Pathways. Our Guided Pathways chairs, that's where we had our non-teaching and teaching faculty involved, our Dean of Counseling, and then myself, the IT Business Analyst. We also invited the IT Director of Application Services, our Career Center staff, and they attended some of the meetings. And then for consultants, we had admissions and records, financial aid, and curriculum. Now, I want to highlight for these last three, very busy departments, especially when you're talking about fall registration going on in the summer. So for this implementation, I went to them. Like, we had a lot of one-on-one conversations. They logged in when they could, but we took the product to them for financial aid. It was a one-day meeting. I sat with her. She gave me input and made the changes right there, and we were done. So very respectful of the time of all the areas. For the Tech Center team, I just wanted to give a shout out to you all. You were great to work with. We have Warren, Rick, Brian, and then Beth, true rock star there. She was our lead. And then proxy support, we worked with Mike and Doug. And turnaround time for all of them was exceptional, very fast. So the timeline, I know, is probably the most important slide here. You want to know, well, how long did it take you? Well, for us, we first took it to the Guided Pathways Committee and President's Cabinet for official approval and vote, and that took place on June, the beginning of June. Then we received our official kickoff email from the Tech Center on the 13th, and then we set up admins. So they asked for a list of admins from us, we gave it, and we set up that initial portal. We are already a proxy school, so that was a very light lift for us, very quick. And then the meat of the implementation occurred between July 10th and August 21st. Remember, there's a lot of holidays going on in the summer, or a lot of vacations, so that did cause some delay on our end, not on theirs. We did have a student demo and feedback session on July 25th. Major shout out to the students. That was finals week for the summer, and we actually had pretty good attendance, and I'll share more on that. And then on August 28th, we were ready to launch. We gave them the green light. The weekend happened, and right after the Labor Day holiday, we went live in production on September 4th. And our next phase, which is incorporating the rules engine, we plan to accomplish in the fall, and we've already made pretty good progress on that as well. So this was my Beth slide. I just want to highlight that Beth was awesome to work with. I've worked on a lot of implementations with various products, and you know, they're not always that great. And so Beth, she was awesome. She was very quick to respond, and she actually scoured our own website. She found content, found images, and threw them all together in MyPath. So when we had our very first meeting together, we already had something to look at. And then for us, it was just a matter of editing that content, which saved us a lot of time and helped also give us some ideas. When I had a question about, how to do something, how to change something, she'd send me a video, I'd watch it, no problem fixing it. And then we used a Google spreadsheet to go back and forth on how to, where we were at, and test IDs in order to complete the testing. And when we would have a meeting and she'd say, you know what, I'll send that to you, she would send it to us within 30 minutes, maybe no more than an hour after that meeting took place. So just very impressive, Beth. You're awesome. Love ya. So for the testing on the students, I don't feel that this is one of those things where it'd be nice to do. I think it's something you have to do, because it does provide so much insight on your process. It did inform our process when we did it. We did open out to the student services groups to encourage students to come. We had 14 show up, which again, pretty good considering smaller semester or intersession during finals. 14. Now half of them, or about 78%, were 18 to 20, and then 21% were 21 to 25. I do acknowledge we didn't capture that older population. We didn't get any to show up from that older population, so that would be nice to include in another round. In that testing, we had 28% of them complete 30 to 45 units, so already seasoned students, and then we had 28% that were fairly new with 1 to 9 units. Now what's nice is we did have quite a bit of representation from the various groups, EOPS, CARE, CalWORKS, and DSPS, Upward Bound, Foster Youth, all were represented in that testing. And we added a technology question, and I'm willing to share the questions that we asked in our survey for anyone that's interested. For the technology question, what I was getting at was just what was their comfort level with technology overall? Because if we did get some negative feedback, I wanted to see if there was a correlation with the comfort of technology. But in this case, they all said they were rock stars in technology. 9 of them said superior, and the rest of them said adequate, good. None of them said I struggle. Now for the overall rating of MyPath, 57 said fair, 57%, and 35% said good. There were not any below fair, which was great. And a lot of the feedback they gave us with that fair rating, we've made adjustments on. And so what I would like to do, of course, is another round of testing now that we've made a lot of changes, and once we throw in that second phase, bring them in again and see if we can get that rating even higher. Now, as far as dislikes and likes, because we did, of course, provide that comment section, majority of them liked the ease of access, and a lot of them, we were watching from the back, and a lot of them gravitated almost immediately to that Pinboard at the bottom, which I'll show you. They liked the images. They just were attracted to them, they went to them, and they played with the functionality of pinning because they were able to actually engage with the content on their own, picking the different resources they liked, which we loved because, you know, campus clubs, student government, these were things that they were immediately being exposed to and saving to follow up on. Now, they did like the strategic links, because our feedback right now, just know we're also under a major overhaul with our website right now. And so we get a lot of feedback that our website is hard to navigate. So they were picking on this saying, oh, this is much better to navigate compared to your website. So great job with the development on that. Now, as far as the images, because again, that seemed to be a real highlight with the students. MyPath right now allows you to put in your college logo and title, a background image, which is that banner across the back, and then the bottom tiles, which they call portlets. Now, I played around with it, and I recommend a 120 by 120 pixel for the current setup, because that's going to maximize how much space you have in that little portlet. And if you keep that consistent, it just looks better. It's very clean across the screen. And then I did provide, some of you may have already seen it, I did respond to the work group and threw out some suggestions for the cards to see how we could somehow incorporate images in those. Since students were gravitating to the tiles, that's great, but we really want them to engage with the content at the top too. So in order to do that, let's have some conversation and see how can we incorporate images into that. And so I threw out some ideas there, and the Tech Center folks said, hey, throw those ideas in this presentation. So here they are. So here's different ideas to somehow incorporate images. That last one, I have to admit, that's the one that my heart's going towards, and that's because I see it as a reverse Instagram kind of social media post. You have the content at the top, image at the bottom. And the only reason I went with that was because I know that banner image that goes across the top of the tiles would contrast. It'd probably look a little too busy. So by putting the image at the bottom, behind it's still white space. So just some feedback there. And again, thank you so much for being open to all the feedback we keep giving. As for Pinboard suggestions, the feedback there was, again, 120 by 120 is the best now, but ideally down the road, if we could somehow maximize that image to where it fills out the whole tile, then that way we don't potentially risk contrasting with school colors, local school colors. Not all of us have that beautiful blue. And if that was the case, that would be a 180 by 160 pixel. So if not, it'd be great to get RGB access to change that backdrop color. So that was my 2 cents on the whole thing. Now for Career Coach, this is the heaviest lift in my opinion, depending on where your school is at with curriculum mapping. So I have a brief 101 here on what I mean by that. So what Career Coach does is it's taking your programs and throwing jobs in front of students based on the SOC code assignment. So if you haven't figured out your SOC codes, you might be throwing jobs in front of them that your instructional folks don't actually feel align with their program. So there's a top code to a SIP code to a SOC code crosswalk. This is a crosswalk that's already out there. It's on the Centers of Excellence website. And what it is there's that one-to-one relationship with the top, which is state, to SIP, which is federal, and then to SOC, which are those job codes. Career Coach takes that, and we get a chance to modify it. So if you already have this work done, awesome, it's a lot less work for you. Thankfully for us, we had already started this conversation. So then all I had to do, this is what they send you, is review what they sent me, which shows all of our programs, their top code, and then their jobs, which has that occupational code, that's the SOC, and then you make any needed edits. You will have some edits because if you've created any new programs or deleted any programs recently, those are probably not on there. So I made some modifications and then sent that over, and they responded, they updated it, I think it was less than a week, probably 3 business days in order to get that done. So that was very helpful. And again, with Career Coach, you don't have to turn it on right away. We liked the fact that it had that abbreviated assessment and then the full assessment. Students liked it, so we rolled it out. As far as this modification, it took me about one full business day sitting with the curriculum specialist to tackle this particular piece. So, like I said, heaviest lift, but worth it. So, what you need to implement MyPath from our perspective, have that admin support. It's not a heavy lift to implement, but you'll want that up front because it's still something new. You're going to have to tap on people for feedback, and having that support up front just helps with those conversations. Have faculty support through your Guided Pathways Committee. That committee is already talking about mind shift, so, very open to change. And so this was a great way to throw it in front of a bunch of faculty, teaching and non-teaching, and get that feedback and blessing at that committee level. For student support, obviously the student feedback, have them engage, have them feel like they have a say in what's going on. And then you will need A&R and financial aid, but again, unless they're going to be one of your long-term admin support people, you only need them for feedback throughout sessions, so you can either invite them to the Zoom meeting or you can say, here's what I have so far, what do you think, and take a few minutes of their time at their desk. For IT, I still feel you should have IT involvement. You don't need them to be your admin. It is not a challenging program to support, but for initial SSO setup and configuration, it's nice. And then for your meetings, Zoom, let people call in via Zoom. I had faculty call in, it was summer, right? So not everyone's on contract. I had faculty call in from home, from their desk, wherever. So it increased participation by having that Zoom available for them. And then optional but nice, the graphics person. I am familiar with graphics. It was helpful, and it does definitely make the end result look nicer. So if at all possible, involve your graphics team. Final advice before we jump into the demo itself is do it in phases. Don't bite off more than you can chew. Start out with your general population, and what I mean by that, cards that you're okay with every student seeing, regardless of how they filled out the application. Once you have that launched live, you're getting that rich data and getting to work with it, then throw in those specialized cards, that rules engine. And then that way, you're starting to see momentum right away. Identify your functional and technical leads at the beginning. How many admins do you need, and who's going to do what? Is it going to be certain departments own certain cards, or is everyone working through a single point of contact? Have that dialogue, understand it. And then be prepared to make changes to your own websites. We did. As you go through this, you realize, oh wait, I don't really have a link to that anywhere. So we did make some modifications. I have an example. And then add links back to MyPath on your own website, because students, they got to engage with it. They got to pin stuff they liked. So they want to be able to find it later. And so make sure you have that avenue for them to get back to it without having to go to the CCC Apply site and figure out how to access it there. For the website mod, what we just did is we added a button. So I want to shout out to Julia from Sierra, actually got this idea from her presentation for MyPath, with students that didn't get their ID. We had that conversation of, well, they apply, they immediately dropped into MyPath, that's great, but if almost all of the resources you're throwing in front of them, like orientation, for example, require an ID, well, they're still stuck for potentially 24 hours, depending on that turnaround for the email. And they may not even realize that they're waiting for an email. So they'll click on orientation, it says, what's your ID? And they're already lost. I can't do anything. So we added on our website the haven't received your student ID yet, and that explains to them how long it takes, and it actually encourages them to jump back into MyPath. So we have right here, it says, in the meantime, you go to the MyPath page and check out the other resources. So it helps finish that loop, gets them back in engaging until they get that email. And then as far as links, we added a MyPath link also when talking about exploring careers. So a couple of places we put it so that students can find it. And I already talked about our phase 2, the rules engine, categorical programs. It's going to involve a lot more people, so it's probably a little slower as far as one card at a time. But it's only September, and we already have started the veterans, EOPS, high school or dual enrollment students, foster, CalWORKs, and DSPS cards. So we're already making progress there, and so it's exciting to see that also moving pretty good. So now I'm going to actually show you what it looks like, because as someone that implements stuff, I always love to see what other colleges are doing. It helps inform my processes too. Jumping through our portal guard here. This is what the tenant side looks like for the admin, so I'm going to jump into what it looks like for our students. And here we go. So again, you could change this logo up here. I did go ahead and add welcome to, just to give that personalized touch to the students. This picture back here, one more feedback that we gave was to allow for a rotation of this image, like a repository similar to Portal Guard, where if a student logs out and logs back in, it's potentially a different image. That'd be pretty cool. Not a must, but my little wish list. Here are our cards. We took the steps, we looked at the bridge, right? What happens, what do students need to do to go from application to in the classroom? And we built that bridge in these cards. So we have our video tour and orientation, our important dates and deadlines that they need to enroll, register, and so on by. Our IVC Career Services Center, we put that as step 2 because our whole idea, our thought process there was they should go through the career assessment before meeting with their counselor so they can tell their counselor what they're interested in and maybe have a better understanding of that by going through the assessment first. Then we have our counseling services, our financial aid card, and then finally our registering for classes card, which tells them how to register, how to access their date and time, which is a constant question we get, and then where to pay their fees. So there's that bridge from applying to actually getting into the classes that they need. As for the Pinboard, again, this is what students really liked. They want more and more of these options down here. And so they can go and they can click on any of these and pin it, and it will actually add it up here for them to quickly access it later. And as I mentioned before, we went with a uniform look with our images, all the same size. I just felt it looked better. And you do have the option to add as many as you want, is my understanding. This is what we have so far. There's also a bunch that they give you from the Chancellor's office, and it's your choice whether you keep them or remove them. And student feedback to us was it was confusing to have links to our site, but then all of a sudden links to a different page that wasn't ours, so we removed those and kept just ours for our MyPath. And that is it for my demonstration. I don't know if there's any questions out there how we're going to handle that piece.
I see one of the questions is, are students able to jump ahead to step 5 without going through steps 1 through 4? And I believe the answer is yes, right? You can just click on whichever step within the ones that are showing up, and even the ones that you can then scroll through. Is that right?
That
Correct. So you'll, oh, sorry. I was going to say, you'll see here, actually, because I've been playing around with it, that I completed step 3, although I have not completed step 1 completely or step 2 at all. So yes, students can jump around.
Also, I'll mention really quickly, Melody, this was an awesome presentation, and you said that this was one of the goals for you guys was to help bridge that gap between the application and the enrollment. And of course, I want to mention that we do have the automated reminder functionality. I'm not sure whether you guys at Imperial Valley are using it quite yet, but you can set up MyPath to send out text messages, emails, and also messages in the MyPath inbox to help the student remember to re-engage with whatever the next step is in their onboarding process. So if they end up in MyPath right after the application and they complete, say, the first 2 steps and they leave the 3rd one incomplete before they have to leave and go do something else, you can have MyPath text them the next day, 2 days later, and say, hey, we see you've got unfinished steps, come back and take care of those. And worth noting as well is that we let you customize the contents of those messages that we send out as well.
Yeah, so we did take advantage of that feature for our first tile. We do have the nudging capability turned on. We have it right here. For now, we did just stick with the nudging only on the first tile. And we're going to, of course, revisit that too, but for us it was a matter of, okay, they potentially, once they meet with the counselor, they might be good to go. So they might not need to come back and re-engage with this necessarily. So, but the first one, by all means, they don't finish the steps within the first tile, they are receiving a nudge.
So going to some of the questions in the chat, can you pull reports to see what students are viewing or clicking? So that's actually something that we're working on right now, is to enable MyPath reporting from the Tech Center's Report Center. And we're discussing it with our user group this afternoon in terms of what specific data our users want. So that is functionality that will be coming online so that you can see where students are viewing and clicking, where they're interacting, and where they may be dropping off, right? So they may complete 2 tasks on a card out of 4, and so there could be some interventions there as well. And follow up via other tools that you have locally at your disposal.
Yeah, I want to mention too about that. We're actually tracking that data like internally right now, so we can actually provide that data to you manually. But as Jennifer mentioned, the goal is to provide a front end that you can interact with to pull whatever reports you want about that kind of thing. But just in the meantime, we do have those statistics and we can share them with you, just to make sure that you're not going without any intelligence whatsoever until those reports are ready.
And Melody, I'm not sure if you mentioned this, have you adopted the nudge capability at Imperial Valley?
Yes, we have the nudge capability turned on for our first card currently.
And then adjusting the size of the card so students can see 5 at a time instead of having to scroll through. Mike, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, so right now the cards are a static size, and part of the reason for that is because we have to maintain not only accessibility, but the front end has to work well on a mobile device. So if you access MyPath from your phone, the entire screen set will sort of resize itself, and you'll actually see fewer cards because we have to optimize for the size of the screen on the mobile device. So it's not configurable right now because we have to prevent it from breaking when students are looking at things on a phone. We obviously can't display 4 cards horizontally like this on a phone, so the screen has to be able to function in a narrower way.
The next question, with a large population of Spanish-speaking students, are there any plans to offer links in Spanish? So first, from a tech center perspective, we're actually working on enabling additional languages on our tools. So first up is CCC Apply, with a release that's coming at the end of the year, the calendar year, with regards to enabling localization of Spanish first, and then future discussion of other languages. In terms of links, Melody, have you had any, do you link to anything in Spanish?
No, we've actually had that conversation. One benefit of involving your Guided Pathways Committee, at least for us, one of our Guided Pathways chairs is an ESL instructor. So he did bring that up. And so we've started discussion on how could we have an ESL card depending on the CCC Apply questions. If there's a question that we can grab, that we can then trigger a card that at least explains to them how to access those resources in another language, that would be very helpful. So we did start that dialogue, but we have not rolled out, again, the rules engine, so nothing customized yet.
Yeah, it is possible using the rules engine right now to do things like trigger out messages or create cards for students in the Spanish language. If you can determine based on CCC Apply data that they need, their experience in Spanish. You just need to work with our team to get that set up.
Excellent. Then I have a question. Is the data collected by Imperial Valley through MyPath dumped back into CCC Apply? And I'm not positive what the full intent of the question is, but let me speak a little bit about our student profile service and our master data management plan. So what we have with regards to students completing CCC Apply, that information feeds MyPath, as Mike just explained, with some of the rules and other pieces. What we're working on right now is a model where tasks completed in MyPath and in a local college SIS and back to other products and services would be tracked within a student's profile, so that it would be current information and steps completed locally would be reflected in MyPath. That's future effort that we're currently working to define right now, so that we can, if a student has to leave the MyPath portal or card rather to complete a task in a local system, and they come back, right now it may not show that they completed it even though they did. And so we're working on connectivity so that it's more seamless in terms of tracking tasks between different systems. So that's coming. And then master data management speaks to if a student has an update to a career option or a major selection or a program of study, those kinds of things, that there would be a masterpiece of their student profile that would be accessible from different systems. So one of the things that is coming is that full integration, and we're working to get feedback from all of you as current and potential users to make sure that we are connecting to the right things that will ultimately benefit the students. And then Mike, do you want to talk about the workflow from Apply to MyPath, or between the two?
Sure. So the way it works right now is we consult with your college during the implementation process to determine sort of where and how you would like to use MyPath. The primary use case that we've seen the majority of colleges essentially put in place for their implementation is using MyPath as an onboarding platform that follows up the application. So students who complete the application will actually see a different final page in CCC Apply if you adopt MyPath, and it will tell them, hey, thanks for submitting your application. now begin your onboarding process with whatever your college name is. And it presents them with a very prominent navigation element on the page to begin working in MyPath. So they click on that, it drops them into MyPath, they're signed in. One of the really critical things to mention is that there's no need for your college to have processed the application and created a username and password for them. You can have them begin their onboarding process literally the second they push send on the application. So they can begin doing their onboarding process. It's all tied to their CCC ID, which means that even later on, when you do create those local credentials, if they log back into MyPath in the future, they can use your local username and password to get there. None of the progress is lost. It all is very seamless. Alternately, you also have the opportunity to use MyPath before CCC Apply if you wish to. So if you, for example, want to provide a specific sequence of research opportunities for students before completing the application. So an example of that would be if you want your students to go through Career Coach because you want them to have done that research before they make the selection in CCC Apply about what program of study they'd like to pursue. You can do that as well. And then as long as you just make one of the steps in MyPath, the CCC Apply step, then they'll get into the application after doing whatever research you've prescribed to them, and everything works kind of as it does today. You know, the application data still comes to you, the student still goes to MyPath afterwards, or you don't have to use MyPath at all after the application if you don't want to. I also do want to take a really quick second and point out to everybody that MyPath is indeed free of charge. So there is no cost associated with using this product. We will help you implement it. We'll get you guys set up. Your students can access it. You'll have access to multiple environments, a testing environment called Pilot that you can use to play with MyPath and the different settings that it has, and of course the production environment that your students will access. And currently there is no plan to charge for that. So I wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of that.
I think that's all the questions from the chat. You've seen the implementation process from the college perspective, and now we'll hear a little bit from Enabling Services. This is the team that, as Melody called out, are really the ones who will help you through each of the steps. They have them laid out. They'll communicate, help you set up your local teams, answer all of your questions, provide you with resources, all of those support pieces in implementation, and continued support. We have a work group for colleges who have adopted the tool so that you can hear how other colleges are making use of the various tools in MyPath and provide feedback, as we mentioned as well. So we'll go ahead and turn it over to the Enabling Services team to provide a glimpse into their side of the implementation.
Thanks, Jennifer. Hi, everyone. This is Warren Whitmore, and I'm a college relationship manager and part of the Enabling Services team. Just wanted to do a brief overview of what Enabling Services is and the services that we can provide to your colleges. Mike Caruso, who's been presenting with us today, is the product manager for MyPath. So his day job is to take feedback from the colleges and the users about the product, build a roadmap and plan development for that product. And then when there is a release of that product or a college that is interested in participating, that comes to Enabling Services. And Enabling Services is built in three pieces. The first part is college relationship managers, which is me and my team. We have Monica Zalakit and Monica Matuzik, who are CRMs, and we will show you in just a minute which CRM works with which college. But essentially, we act as account managers on behalf of the Tech Center so that we can be a point of contact for you about any product or service that the Technology Center offers. So if you have questions, we want to be the person that you come to. If we don't have the answer, our job is to go find the person that does and then get it back to you. We also act as your advocates within the Tech Center. So as we come out and visit with you and hear your feedback, our job is to bring that back to the leadership team at the Enabling Services. So we really want to be that communication channel for you. The second part is we have dedicated implementation project managers. So if a college raises their hand and says, hey, Warren, I'm interested in moving forward with MyPath. What are the next steps? I would facilitate a meeting with the project manager for that college, and they would then set up a series of project meetings, have a project outline for you, and then work with what we call a configuration engineer, which is Beth Knowles that you've heard about today, who will come in and actually do a lot of the heavy lifting for you on the configuration side. So Melanie mentioned in her presentation that MyPath specifically is a pretty light lift as far as your IT group goes. And that's really important because we recognize that most colleges have a bottleneck or a resource constraint with IT. Unlimited requests from the college, very limited resources to do it. So MyPath is designed to be very light on the IT side. Individuals like Beth will be doing a lot of the behind the scenes work for you. The bigger piece of the project is getting the right stakeholders in the room to have the conversation about how you want campus resources to be presented in MyPath. So that's kind of the general overview. CRMs, which are your account managers, work directly with the implementation managers and the configurationers to deliver the product and the services that you have. If you're looking for who your CRM is, the easiest way to do it is to go out to the Tech Center website, which I'm sharing right now. It's just ccctechcenter.org. And then if you go here under Documents and Announcements, one of the items that you'll see here is the CRM directory by college. So just find your college in there. It will list who your CRM and their information is. But at any point, if you have a question and you're not sure who your CRM is, we have a group email that you can send it to, which is just CRMS. That's CRMS at ccctechcenter.org. And then that comes to all three of us, and we would just divvy it up based on what the college assignments are. So let me pause right there for a moment, see if there's any questions about the handoff from Mike and his team with the product and the development over to enabling services and what we can do as far as implementing and supporting the product.
Warren, if I may, this is Andy Newman. At the top of the list of the screen that Warren is sharing, you'll see a document called 3 Easy Steps to Working with the Technology Center as well. And in addition to MyPath, the Enabling Services team works with all of the product and solutions that the Tech Center provides. So if you would like to expand from there, you can look at that document.
Thanks, Andy. In the chat window right now, I'm sharing the link to this page right here that you can copy, and also the email address that you can reach us at, which is that crms@ccctechcenter.org. The other thing that I wanted to do is give Beth a couple moments to talk about her experience in implementing MyPath, any tips or tricks that she has learned in doing this now dozens of times, and open it for questions from any of the technical aspects of it. So Beth, do you want to go ahead and take a couple minutes?
Sure, thank you, sir. I've worked on a number of different implementations with different schools, as Warren indicated, and the one thing that stands out with just about every school is every school has specific tasks that students need to accomplish in order to get registered in classes. That said, it seems easy for a school implementation to maybe follow those different student profiles. So with a new student, for instance, they have a number of matriculation steps they have to accomplish before they can register for classes. They've got to attend orientation. meet with the counselor to create an ed plan, maybe provide their assessment information either from their high school transcript or perhaps take an assessment. And then they can go ahead and register for classes. But there are common denominators, school after school, where regardless of the school, certain steps have to be attained by students. New students have one set of steps. A student who's transferring from another institution might have an additional step, and that would be to provide college transcripts from their other colleges they've attended. Nevertheless, though, following the guidelines that all schools use in order to get students registered in classes, those commonalities exist from one school to another. And that's something great that we can expound upon to build a basic foundation for MyPath. So those are the different student profiles. Then there are other special things like students who are also veterans. Well, you want to present them with information so they know that they've got to get a copy of their DD-214, or they probably will want to investigate information that's available at the government website for GI benefits. So these, again, are commonalities that exist from one institution to another because a student still has to meet some type of set of requirements in order to get to the point of registering for class. That makes it pretty quick and easy for us to enable a framework to be built to give a basic foundation to the school to start with. And as Melody had mentioned, we did a basic framework for Imperial Valley. And in doing so, that gave them something more than just a blank slate to start with. Then they were able to look at the content that Enabling Services provided, meet with different stakeholders, tweak and modify the content as they felt fit, and then they came up with their final product. And the next step, as she mentioned, is going to be to use the rules engine. So that will be an exciting process as well. And the rules engine also is pretty easy because it's based on information derived from the student application, whether a student indicates that they're a veteran, or they were involved in the foster youth process, or perhaps they're homeless, or they're interested in DSPS or EOPS. All of that information derived from the student application can benefit providing a prescriptive experience to students on different advisor cards. Any questions?
All right, thanks, Beth. So if there aren't any questions for enabling services or how to get started with the MyPath project, we'll go ahead and turn it back over to Jennifer and Mike.
Thank you. I have to say that it's many thanks to Melody and the team at Imperial Valley for sharing your experience. It's always helpful to hear from someone who has actually undertaken the process at a college. So we would like to thank you and your team for sharing that story and encourage all of you with questions to follow up and let us help you with implementation of MyPath in support of getting those students from CCC Apply into the seats at your colleges. And we will continue to share out our good stories and our stats in terms of the impact that we are having, and we hope to add yours to the list and let us know how we can do that. Reach out to your CRMs if you have any questions, or reach out to Mike if you have questions about the product. And are there any closing questions or comments? Great. Thank you to our communications team at the Tech Center for getting this set up and communicated out. And we look forward to having you join us at a future webinar. Thank you, everyone. Have a great afternoon.